And with us now, our first headliner, Kellyanne Conway, Senior Counsel to the President, live from the West Wing. How you doing, Kellyanne? And thank you for your time today.
Of course, congratulations to both of you and your whole crew and team.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks for being our first headliner.
Love the red chairs.
We
so fancy.
Very fancy.
We think you're the only one left of the White House right now, given the fact that everybody's in Singapore. Question for you. Why would Chairman Kim give up his nuclear program?
Chairman Kim must recognize that a denuclearized Korean peninsula is in everybody's interest. I mean, the President and Secretary Pompeo have made very clear that this is a mission of peace, and that peace impacts the entire world. Our allies at the G7, certainly North Korea, South Korea, and the United States. This is no longer an issue just for the United States or an issue just for those who are within a certain range of the Korean peninsula. This is a worldwide issue, and it takes President Trump's leadership to succeed where others haven't. Secretary Pompeo and the President have also made clear that complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization is the goal, and that the maximum pressure campaign will continue unless and until that happens. That probably will not be achieved in a one-and-done type of meeting, but this is such a gigantic, momentous step forward that other presidents and administrations have not been able to effectuate. And I think it's because this president came to Washington owing nobody anything except the ability to look at how things have been done in the past domestically and internationally and do things a little bit differently. So it looks great there on the ground, meaning everybody's very hopeful that because this actually came together and both parties are there in Singapore, that progress is being made. And also, Chairman Kim must understand that, as the president has said, great things can happen in his country. The economy could be more prosperous. The people could be more free.
But the nuclear program is the one thing that put him on the international stage. His grandfather started this program 70 years ago. Where is his incentive just to surrender it?
But to what end? In other words, well, I didn't say he has an incentive to just end it. I'd imagine he has negotiating chips he'll bring to the table as well. And we all know, we've seen the devastating stories, personal impact stories coming out of North Korea, people suffering there under a number of deprivation, and also in the case of Otto Warmbier, the American who paid the ultimate price. The fact is that Chairman Kim and his people have an incentive, and it's if you give up your nuclear program, perhaps you could be a more peaceful, more prosperous, and not be seen as a pariah around the world either. So we'll let these two leaders, Mr. Kim Jong-un and certainly President Trump, have that meeting together first. I think that's the key here.
Well,
that's the way President Trump has operated forever.
Kellyanne, there is so much anticipation and build up to this meeting. I mean, you see the countdown clock on our screen. We're building up. We're hours away now. And at first there was very little detail on the actual meeting itself. The logistics of it. Now we're starting to know a little bit more. You're holding down the fort at the White House. Has anything changed in the last couple hours?
It has not. And again, President Trump made very clear he would like to meet one-on-one with just the translators, with the other principal here. And that's very much the way this president has been doing business successfully throughout his career. And it may strike many people who have been involved in the past as an unusual request. But remember, we're looking at an entirely different framing. Those who are stuck in the international order, this has never been done. This is not the way things have been done. The way things have been done have been chronically unsuccessful. And I think that the success that President Trump has brought to the domestic economy, whether it's taxes or regulation or the incredible economic and jobs and growth numbers, he's bringing to bear on the world stage as well. And you know, even people aren't focused on the consensus building measures at the G7 and the fact that President Trump, who presides over the largest and the fastest growing economy among the G7 members, he left that meeting early to go and try to broker progress, if not peace, on behalf of the entire world.
Understand that. Listen, we all hope for a successful moment here in Singapore. We can all agree on that. But what you left behind were the contrails of a G7 that nobody anticipated. I don't know what happened on board Air Force One, but here is Justin Trudeau after the plane took off from yesterday. Listen here.
I highlighted directly to the President that Canadians did not take it lightly. that the United States has moved forward with significant tariffs. It's kind of insulting. And I highlighted that it was not helping in our renegotiation of NAFTA. We're polite, we're reasonable, but we also will not be pushed around.
What are we to make of this now? Our neighbor to the north, Canada? I mean, clearly things are a bit sideways. How do we straighten them out?
But in that way, Mr. Trudeau sounds a lot like President Trump, meaning we won't be pushed around. The president feels that way. He vanquished 17 other opponents, and certainly the Queen Bee herself, mainly running on issues like this, where he has said, what we've been doing has been screwing the American worker, American interest industry, and America herself. There is a 245% tariff by Canada on cheese after you surpass a quota. When you include goods and not just services, the president says we have a deficit with Canada, and it's hurting the American workers.
Go to the point
he will always
here.
put them first.
Understood. How far away are you from resolving this? Is it days, weeks, or months?
Resolving the trade issues?
The trade issues, yes, before you can come to an agreement.
Tough to say, but people should note, Bill, that this conversation has been going on since transition. Mr. Trudeau has been here many times. The president and he have met at other summits, at other locations. Obviously, Mexico is involved with NAFTA. This president is not tearing up trade agreements and walking away. He is saying it needs to be fair and reciprocal, and he's more of a fan of bilateral trade agreements than these multilateral trade agreements. But the idea that the president is going to go to G7, wherever it is, in this case it was in Canada, and do the mealy-mouthed talk of other types of perhaps leaders in the past, or even other leaders in industry, it's just not Donald Trump. He is always going to put Americans first, and people continue to act shocked. Listen, Donald Trump, very quickly, he took a tiny, tiny issue called trade that was mired in single digits, if not even registering the polls, and elevated it to a matter of fairness. And he will always look out for those farmers and those workers.
Kellyanne, I've got to leave it there. They're going to kill me. But one last question, 5 seconds. Is Vladimir Putin next? Are you guys planning a summit?
The president said he would sit down with him again. You know, he did. That meeting went long past what the media said it was supposed to. I don't know why they're the ones setting expectations.
That's a maybe.
And this president says he wants to deal with the world as it is, not how people pretend it to be.
That's a
but
maybe.
He's really pushed back on Putin and Russia as well, in Syria, with sanctions, with the expulsion of Russians from this country. He's been pretty tough, but he's willing to work on big issues if that can happen.
Kellyanne, thank you for joining us on our first
Thank you.
day.
Is that a maybe or a yes or a no?
That's it, to be continued. See you next time.
Thank you, Kellyanne. Come on back, okay?
Thanks for your time this morning.